Welcome to another episode of the Phoenix Rising podcast, Journeys of Descending into the Mysteries and Rising from the Roots. I am your host, Lisa Hillier, spiritual mentor and priestess, and I am so grateful that you are here and experiencing this podcast. It is my greatest joy. And if you want to support the podcast, joining the Patreon portal is a powerful community of humans rising into their highest self, where supportive tools are there to guide you. And so the Patreon portal, the link is in the show notes, and I am so grateful for anybody that supports the podcast by sharing, by writing a review, by joining the Patreon. It all really helps to get this message, these teachings out to a wider community where the world needs them at this powerful, potent time on the planet. And today I have RJ Hammond on the show with me. And RJ has been lucid dreaming as a child and has continued ever since. RJ has over 10 years of practicing and teaching these techniques of astral travel and lucid dreaming. With learning techniques from different teachers, as well as years of research, reading, and practice, RJ is able to apply the knowledge he has learned to have successful lucid dreams and out-of-body experiences. He is the founder of the Lucid Center and combines different techniques from all around the world, using Tibetan dream yoga techniques combined with more modern Western traditions make for quick and easy success when followed. And in today's episode, RJ and I dive deep into all things the dream state, astral travel, lucid dreaming, and all the magic that awaits you when you're deep, deep in sleep. Can't wait to sink into this episode with you. Welcome, RJ. And to start, we're going to start with the question of what has been the journey that has led you to the work that you're offering the world today?
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I was very excited to get on here and start talking. So the journey that has led me to this work of teaching out of body, astral projection, lucid dreaming, different classes and techniques for people is my own journey with that stuff. So I actually started doing a lot of these practices, specifically lucid dreaming, when I was younger. It's very common for people to have lucid dreams when they're young, and when you get older, sometimes tapers off. And so I was aware of these experiences from growing up and having them myself. But then when I got older and in high school and earlier in college, I never really, ventured or investigated more into them or read about them. And then I ended up actually breaking my jaw a few years ago. And I'm very big on more natural medicine, but I had to take some pharmaceutical medication as well. And I did not like that. So I was just basically trying to think of different natural ways to relieve pain. And with a broken jaw, it's really tough to sleep. And so my biggest thing was trying to go to bed at night. And my jaw actually went undiagnosed for almost a year of it being broken. And so it got very painful for a little bit of time there, to where I got CAT scans, an MRI, and they were both like, nothing's wrong with the anything, you're perfect, this is all psychosomatic, this is in your head. They were telling me this was all in my head, this is in my head. And then it started to get really kind of dark when I would start to go to bed at night, and then in my dream space I would also have a broken jaw and I would be in a lot of pain. And so it started to seep directly into my dreams. And it was to the point that I'd be in a lot of pain in my waking life. I'd then go to bed and I'd be in a lot of pain in my dreams. And they wouldn't be lucid dreams. They were just dreams I'd wake up from. And some dreams I might have been crying in because I was, it like just happened or something in the dream, or something kind of, it was a traumatic experience. And so in the dreams, sometimes it would present somewhat traumatic. And I just was like, there's got to be a way to get over this repetition of basically being afraid to go to bed at night. And I know that is for a lot of people, bedtime is like a big, they have to drink before, have to take some type of substance, do something that's not just natural to go to bed or to stay asleep. The sleeping is a big problem in the whole world here. And until it really affected me personally, I always fell asleep really easily. And so that is where the whole journey began, was once this pain that from my jaw started to creep into my dreams. And then I had the earlier experiences that I could control my dreams when I was younger. It just kind of sparked this idea of, okay, maybe I don't have to be so nervous about going to bed anymore. Maybe I can have a lucid dream and change this traumatic experience to something far more enjoyable, far more exciting. And then just going down that kind of question and that path allowed you, once you do these practices, you basically go to bed a certain way, you set up your bedtime routine a certain way. So getting in that kind of rhythm really helped me overcome a lot of that weird kind of chronic pain years ago going to bed. And then once I was in a dream, I never had to worry that I was going to be, getting upset or being hurt in my dream. I knew that I could have a lucid dream, I could change what's going on. And then that just started me off for this entire journey here.
Wow. So with the jaw, it was actually broken. So was there a procedure that you went through to fix that? Or was it specifically in the dreams that you healed that?
So in the procedures, I did have to wear, this was another journey or step, I would say, along the journey. So it started with that just first type of, okay, maybe I can stop the pain. Maybe I can stop these dreams from happening. But then once I got the jaw in, I had to have this contraption in my mouth for like 8 months. And I had to have an all liquid diet for a super long time. It was like a whole life ordeal for about a year, to where it was 24/7 in my mouth, just this contraption. And I got my degree in communication. So it's like taking a musician's fingers away from them. I couldn't speak anymore for a long time to heal. And that's my main go-to. I get energy from speaking to people. I love it. I'm a natural communicator. And so this was for people some people like to be more quiet, but if you are somebody who is communicating a lot naturally, that is a really hard thing to do, to take that away, especially for like months. And so I had a kind of this base of experience, this base of knowledge. And then I just had about a year of just reading, soaking myself up with these experiences, because I couldn't really talk. So I was just reading multiple books a month out over the course of the whole year. Then that led to 2 years. And then, I couldn't really speak in my waking life, but then I could have these incredible experiences in my dream states. And again, that just, each step kind of opened my mind up to the possibilities is what's going on. So thankfully, I did have an actual physical contraption heal, but along that journey, without the practices of this stuff, it would have been a night and day experience. I like to enjoy the journey to the end, as well, not just the end process. And that absolutely was a way to, if I had a year of a mouth appliance, we sleep a third of our lives. So essentially for a third of that year, you're able to have these experiences that aren't necessarily handicapped by what you're going through. And that in itself helped me heal in other ways too.
Yeah. So can you, for everybody listening, let everybody know what is lucid dreams? What are lucid dreams? And also, what is astral travel?
Yeah, absolutely. So that is a great question. When it depends, the two of them depend on basically the culture that you're asking them in. If we are in, I would say, more of the Western culture, the lucid dream and astral projection, the out-of-body experience, it's somewhat separated. So I live here in the United States. We have a great, there's called the Lucidity Institute. It's by Stephen LaBerge. I don't know if anybody's familiar or if you're yourself. He's one of the big pioneers in lucid dreaming. He was one of the first people to be able to prove it in a scientific setting. And so for the West, that was really important. And his books really proved that you can have a lucid dream, you can put your body to sleep, and then you can go into another experience with your five senses. And you can pull from that experience here. You can have dual consciousness. You can be sleeping and be completely aware in some other environment that you're dreaming. And so they did these little tests where they had these people lay down, go to sleep, and then they would basically track their brain waves, see that they're sleeping. And before they went to sleep at night, they actually told them, this is what you're going to do when you gain awareness in a dream with your rapid eye movement. So your REM sleep cycles, your eyes move. And so they told the sleeper, the dreamer, that when he gains awareness in a lucid dream, to basically Morse code with his eyes back to them a message. And so he was able to do that, able to prove that you can have awareness in a different dream state while under scientific study, your brain is basically in a dream state. So it wasn't somebody's vivid imagination doing this, or a vivid, just a fun story somebody was making up. This was a proven way that the brain's asleep on the monitor and they're still experiencing this full experience. Mm-hmm. And then an out-of-body experience would be, the lucid dreaming would be more internal, and the out-of-body would be a direct out-of-body experience into this physical that we live in. There's a lot of kind of mishaps between the two. They're stepping stones to each other. So the question is kind of hard to explain, because if you ask anybody, or a lot of cultures in the East, they would say that this is the dream that you and I are talking in right now. And that when you go to bed at night, that's actually the waking life, and the lucid dreams and all that stuff is actually the real life. And so it does depend on where you're at in the culture of asking. But basically the experiences are that you're placing your five senses outside of your physical body, or outside of this physical experience. And so when you're talking about lucid dreaming, it tends to be a lot easier for people to achieve. Again, I think they're stepping stones to each other. But when you're trying to place, and the techniques are also very similar. That's the other interesting thing about lucid dreaming and astral projection, is when you're trying to separate the two directly in like a category, they actually blend over very easily. The techniques to have an out of body is almost directly the same to have a lucid dream. And the same techniques to actually prolong the experience are the same as well. Similar ways on how to manifest things and how to move around the experience. But there are some differences when it comes to the separation process, which is what I mainly focus on. Because if somebody had a lucid dream that was very profound, and then they woke up, and then they were like, oh no, that was an astral projection, never mind. It's more important that they take that experience in. And it is good to try to decipher what the two are, but the more important thing is for people to have the experience first and then apply it, because you could have a full-blown lucid dream and think it's an out-of-body experience, or vice versa, but the experience was still true to you because you were there, your five senses were there. And so you can still gain real knowledge from that experience. If it is an OBE or a lucid dream, it doesn't weigh any different to you. But there are some pretty key differences. Of a lot of people will assume that a lucid dream is easier to do. It's more talked about. It's in a lot of movies. And so that alone can kind of get you intro to the topic. Trying it first and saying, oh, this is real, this is possible, maybe the out of bodies as well. Excuse me. And so the difference is, whenever you're having a lucid dream, there does seem to be some slippage in time to when you're awake in your physical life, and then you go into a dream space, and then you gain awareness in the dream space. Where an out of body experience, a lot of times for people, they induce it while they're awake, and they know they're completely awake, and there's almost no time, maybe a few seconds, but there's almost no slippage in time. You're awake in your bed, and then almost instantly you're watching your body, or you're over on the other side of the room, or you're in some other environment. And another difference for people, again, this is for people if they've had the experience and they're trying to decipher between the two. If they're meditating and their experience transitions from, like I said, no dreams, you're just right into the experience, that is more common with an out of body. Also, a lot of sensations occur when you're practicing out of body techniques. When you're lucid dreaming, it's very direct, that kind of A, B, C, and then you're going to have an experience. Where if you're having an out of body experience, you're trying to put your physical body to sleep while you're awake. And so they call it mind awake, body asleep. And that experience can kind of be a little frightening for people as well. And so it's common in the out of body to have these sensations that occur, loud noises, loud buzzing, a lot of heavy vibrations within the body. The vibratory state, or the vibration state, can be very intense for some people. And some people report not having the vibration state happen, but it's very common that if you practice having an astral projection, that you'll start to have these weird vibrations start to go on. And that's not really happening when you have a lucid dream. So again, there are some key factors that play, but the main thing is, again, like I was saying, once you put your five senses into a new environment, somebody else might categorize it as a lucid dream or an out of body experience, but as long as you can take real tangible things from that experience and apply it in your waking life, that's your own, your own experience there. And I wouldn't really let somebody say, oh, that wasn't real because that was a lucid dream, that wasn't an out of body experience. Well, if whatever your five senses are, that's real to you in that moment. Because I always found that if you talk to somebody for long enough, sometimes they can seem very far off on what they think is real, and two people could be living in this reality and not agree on this reality. Some people don't agree on the laws of physics that this world lives in. Some people, think this, and Republican, Democrat. There's all these different types of people that live here. And so once you have an out-of-body experience or a lucid dream, and these senses that are here are now placed in another environment, that situation is just as real as right now is. Because it doesn't matter if you're in it and you say this is fake, you're still experiencing it right then and there. And it's very real. And some people, including myself, would say it is just as real and physical as right here, right now, sometimes even more real. And so it really depends on who you're asking. And the biggest thing is, once you have the experience, to try to see for yourself. Sometimes it's clear as day. If you go to sit down and meditate and there's no slippage in time, you project out of your body, you see yourself sitting in bed, and then you open your eyes. I would consider that an out of body. If you're meditating, about 30 minutes goes by, you went to sleep, about 30 minutes passes, and you wake up in some weird random environment, that might be more of a lucid dream. And they might kind of flirt with each other, and they can dance with each other a little bit. You can have a lucid dream go into an out-of-body experience, and you can also have an out-of-body experience like a lucid dream. And so it really just depends on your situation, the mindset you go into, and what you're trying to experience. And then from there, you can just have your own personal experience and classify it yourself.
Okay. So with lucid dreams, does everybody have lucid dreams, or is it something that you intentionally have to go into the sleep state with? So you spoke about when you were a child, you were having these experiences, and then it got shut down and you weren't having them for a time with it as an adult. Would you say that everybody is having these experiences as a child, and then something shuts us down from it?
Yeah.
Society. And then as we're older, are we having them a lucid dream? How does a lucid dream differ from just a regular normal dream? Or do we intentionally have to go into a lucid dream?
That's awesome. So when you're starting off as a kid, most kids function in a theta brainwave state for a portion of their early life. And a lot of these experiences actually take place when you're in a theta brainwave or delta when you're sleeping. And so when you're in waking life, we're basically at a resting beta, and it's stimulated. You can close your eyes and go to some alpha type of frequency when you're meditating. But when you can walk yourself back to a theta or a delta brainwave state, you can really have these experiences. And so if you imagine a kid, they're walking awake as you and I are awake right now. We're basically functioning in beta, and a child that's 4 years old is 3 frequencies back essentially. They're awake, but the brain waves are the same as if they were asleep. And so I would think that's why a lot of kids have these imaginary friends and incredible imaginations. And that's also why a lot of kids experience this when they're young. The amount of adults that say, oh, their kid tells them about dreams of flying around the house or watching mom and dad up at night, watching TV when the kid was put to bed, and how could the kid have known that, and stuff like that. And so children are really sensitive to this type of thing. And so everybody has these experiences. And I actually think when they do studies on it, I think it's 1 in 3 adults admit to having this as an adult, or 1 in 4. I don't know exact statistics on that, but there was a study done recently about just about 1 in 4 have these commonly. or once or twice as an adult. But the saddest thing I would say is after you're a child, your brains, you do start to kind of get more solidified in this solid reality that we are living in right now. And so it is a little harder to sometimes play with that imagination due to, social cues and everything like that in the culture you live in. But the weirdest thing is that you actually continue to have these experiences. The only difference is you're not remembering them. That's specific to an out-of-body experience. And the difference is with the lucid dreaming is you're already having a dream. So every single person dreams. So it's very rare if you come across somebody that says they don't dream. And if they say that, they say that as an adult. They'll say they had wild dreams as a kid. And then when they got older, it all stopped. And so there are very easy techniques that you can do to regain your dream recall if you are an adult now. I have had, the beautiful thing about this stuff is the reach that the internet gives you. And so people have reached out from all over the globe and have said, a direct review is, 10 plus years of dreamless sleep for this individual after taking a few classes, pages of dream journals, and then ended up having a full-blown lucid dream. And he thought he was a self-proclaimed person that says he does not dream anymore. And he was adamant about that. And it's just, there are techniques to basically get back into that swing of remembering your dreams. A lot of the times, if you're an adult, if you go to another adult and you ask them about their dream or your dream, most of the time people could care less in the West culture. And then the other thing is, if you never are asking yourself, are you dreaming while you're awake? The chances of you asking yourself that while you're dreaming are also zero, essentially. And so you just have to start to change how you approach your waking life. It's not, you don't have to meditate for a year or for months. You can really see some changes within a few days. And then you do consistent work in a few days, it leads to a week. And within 1 to 30 days of practice, you can go from no dreams whatsoever to a full-blown experience and, having multiple experiences. And so the difference from the dream state is just being unconscious. So you can have a dream, and it's funny to me because if people say, I've had the comment of, sometimes this stuff is evil or demonic or negative. And I've heard that from a couple different people. And those same people would never say a dream is evil, demonic. And so the only difference is you're dreaming every night anyways. You're just not taking control. And I actually, from a lot of the literature and the books I've read, I do agree with some of the Eastern part of unconscious dreaming is basically karma, or not karma is how like we would think of it regularly, but if you don't gain awareness in your dream, like I didn't for a year, I then suffered through my dream experience, which was a painful experience. Versus if I had the tools and the knowledge going into that experience, the moment my jaw started hurting, I could then take off and fly, or I could do X, Y, or Z, or do something different. And that was just because I then gained awareness through my, I just gained awareness within the lucid dream. So that's the difference of a dream, is that people wake up and have super visual dreams and they'll go, oh, was that a lucid dream? But once you have a lucid dream, you know what it is, because you are just as awake as you and I are right now talking. And you were a full creator, essentially. So in a dream, you could, where's my cell phone? I keep dropping my cell phone, and, you're freaking out for an hour. And then you wake up and you're like, oh, I had the weirdest dream. I couldn't find my cell phone the whole dream. And that would be what people would consider a karmic dream, because you were for an hour running around your room looking for a cell phone, when if you just lived consciously, gained awareness within the lucid dream, within a second, you can then go out of that dream environment to some other experience, some other, completely different thing. And so it's basically, I consider it getting a third of your life back. And so if you just got anybody at the end of their life and you said, listen, you can classify this experience however you want, but would you like to have a third of your life back with essentially superpowers? And I like to kind of say that, goofy, because that is essentially what's going on in these experiences. You are not limited whatsoever. And if you're dreaming, you're limited. And so that's the biggest thing. It just takes the chains off of you of, you're basically at the whim of your dream, you're a dream character. And then the moment you gain awareness, you then become the creator of your experience, and you can have whatever you want to experience. And that's a big difference of just dreaming. You're reactive, you're just reacting. And then when you're lucid, you're proactive. You can eliminate somebody from the scenery. You can change the scenery completely. You can hang out with people you haven't seen for years. And that all comes from you having to manifest it intentionally before going to bed and then in the moment. And then if somebody else who wouldn't want to take an extra third of their life and have all these experiences, because I do not think that we're meant to just black out for 8 hours a day, have nothing going on, and then wake up. I do think we're meant to be doing things at certain times in these dream states. And I think there's a reason why we go to bed every day, and it's very easy to get into these states when you know how to do it. It's almost so easy. You like start to question, why isn't everybody doing it? Because it does get very easy, just like everything after practice. But if you're not lucid dreaming, you're dreaming anyways. You're just being a reactive person. And so that's going to cause some negative experiences possibly in a dream. And then if you're not dreaming, this is the trippiest thing. You are dreaming, you're just not remembering your dreams. And you can very much change that. And that's different than if you're going to bed on stimulants or like 6 cups of coffee and you're still in a very active brain. You can't go to sleep. That's different. But if anybody's truly trying to go to sleep for 6 to 8 hours, they wake up with no dreams. They had a dream. They just can't remember it. They just need to know there's techniques you can do to remember your dreams.
Beautiful. So when you were speaking to the theta brain state, I teach yoga nidra, and in yoga nidra we go into the theta brain state to
Beautiful
rewire limiting beliefs. So is that something that is possible in our dream state? I guess where I'm going with this is like, yes, some people don't remember their dreams at all. Some people do remember their dreams. I most often remember my dreams. And for me, I'm like, it's just my subconscious unpacking. There might be some healing going on. Some dreams, I have repetitive dreams. I'm sober. I've been sober for almost 7 years. I have repetitive dreams where I start drinking again. And then in my dream state, it's like, I know that I've fallen off the wagon, so to speak. And then I go through the guilt and shame. And then I wake up, like literally wake up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I've started drinking again. And then have to like recall, like, no, that was a dream. You're still sober. So it's quite like jarring to the system. And so I guess with that, is it possible to go into those dreams consciously to rewire those beliefs that I might still hold, that, you know, there's so much in that one dream about drinking again, and it's quite repetitive. So yeah, does anything come up for you around that?
A 1,000,000%. Absolutely. Yes. That's a really common thing I'm asked as well. I like to start off by saying, if you are experiencing one end of the spectrum, the other end does exist as well. And so if you're somebody who is experiencing a common nightmare or a common incident that's sparking this negative waking up experience as well, you can prime yourself to wake up just as you're doing now. With you wake up and you're still feeling that guilt, and then you're having to go through your mind with all those questions. That same thing exists, but on the other side as well, that you can reprogram the subconscious to then have an enjoyable experience, to then when you wake up, instead of waking up and being anxious or guilty, you wake up with not only a sense of, I would say, extreme empowerment. When you self-induce this experience and you have success, that your confidence, doesn't matter who you are, it just like skyrockets, because you just went from reading something and then you applied it, and now you're in this other environment and you should feel proud of yourself. And so that alone helps. But then when you start to actually do the reprogramming, the actual part of what you were talking about, you then wake up proud of yourself. You wake up happy, pumped for the day, tons of energy for the day. And because you didn't, you eliminated that experience, first of all, from happening, that the drinking in itself. A lot of people will use actually these negative things. I like to say use, the greatest weakness as a strength. And so a lot of people, when I teach these classes, I would say if we were going over your monthly routine, with those, every time you were having a drink in the dream, or every time you were doing whatever action it was in the dream, you would use that as your time to do a reality check, or you would use that as your time to gain awareness. And so if you do that enough, you might have one or two dreams to start off with where it doesn't work. But eventually you're going to get to the point that you can start to, like what you said, reprogram the subconscious to stop having those experiences. And then you can also reprogram yourself to, every time that you might slip into having that experience in a dream state, that every time that you're doing this, you're going to try to gain awareness. And so you take the power away from it. Kind of my own thing with going to bed every night and thinking, what if I have another dream that I break my jaw? What if I can't have that again? So, okay, I don't want to sleep. I'm going to stay up as late as I can. And so you start to get this kind of weird approach to bed. Versus knowing that, one, you directly can change that approach to the subconscious. And then two, on the way to changing that, because that might take a little bit of time, on the way to changing that, you can just change the experience straight off the bat. So if you want to unpack what's going on there, you're able to, but you're also able to go, no, thank you, I'm just going to go over here. Or I'm going to go, you know what I'm saying? Some people, if they don't want to always address what is going on, they always can just change the situation from what's going on. And so it's kind of however you want to go into the experience, but your subconscious is basically what is going on. And that's why everybody says your dream is your subconscious, like what you were saying, unpacking itself. Well, imagine if you could actually talk physically to the subconscious on a real way of asking, and this might sound weird, but you could literally ask a dream character why you're having this dream repeatedly. And the response back might just blow your mind. You can ask the environment as well. You can ask an item within the space. You can ask a radio. You can ask, it sounds very weird, but you're in an experience that, like what we said, your subconscious is producing it. And so you're basically in the subconscious aware, and then you can ask it these questions like a backboard almost, and then it's going to backboard it to you. And I can kind of share a direct story actually of what I did in this experience. With learning all these techniques, when you start to go down this path, there's like 20 different techniques over here, all this breath work over here. It gets very overwhelming. And I knew that in my lucid dream, that was a lot of it was my subconscious. And so I planned to have a lucid dream that I was going to ask a dream character, and knowing that it's my subconscious, I know that I'm asking myself this question. So I go into the dream space, and I already know before I go to sleep that I'm going to ask a dream character. And I already know that this dream character is a representation of me. And so I ask them, and I go, with all the information I'm reading, what's the technique I should focus on of all of these? And then they responded with, when I wake up, I need to do this technique. I need to focus on this specific technique. And you bet, when I woke up, I wrote it down, did the technique. It worked beautifully. It's like my go-to favorite technique. And so I just knew that I needed to ask the direct question. I got a direct answer back. And so you can either go into your dream space with this intention of figuring out why this is a repetitive dream. And you literally ask a dream character, why is this going on here? Or you can kind of take a step back once you gain awareness in the dream and analyze the environment. What's going on? Is there, a regular trigger in this environment? And the coolest thing is you have to gain awareness first to do that. And once you gain awareness, it takes away all that power. Like with my jaw thing and with the intimidation of all the knowledge of all these different techniques, it all of a sudden took the power away from all of that stuff and just brought me right to my answer of, I'm hurting. I understood why I was hurting. So I didn't need to really change that thing from happening. I just then went on and did something different. I then turned my back and changed the scenery. And then I had a fun time at the beach instead of at a doctor's office. And so it just changes your approach to it. But I would reference to try to ask a dream character. That's a direct thing I've had students ask from repetitive childhood nightmares. And they're still having them as an adult, even in their 40s. And so that was one thing that they did, is they went into a dream space, directly asked why does this dream keep happening to me? And then they had their own kind of conversation there. So that's what I'd recommend.
Okay. Beautiful. And what it felt like, kind of like you can almost change the channels. If you don't want to go in and converse with the dream
Yeah.
characters, you can be like, I'm going to change the channel and I'm going to go somewhere else. And when we have that awareness, we're that powerful where we can kind of
Yes.
shift the experience. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and that's where I talked about that skyrocketing of confidence comes in at, because at first, if you've only read about these experiences, or you've only had maybe a 2-second one, or maybe one from childhood that you remember, you don't really know if it was real. You don't really understand how powerful you are. And then once you go and you actually gain awareness in this dream state, it's almost like you're like, how did I ever let this dream get to me like this? Because you're so powerful. You're like, I could just change this by my thought process. And that's where waking lucid living kind of takes into place. Kind of maybe segue to that topic of that's where a lot of daytime practices actually really benefit you within these dream spaces as well, because you have to be able to meditate and get into a meditative state to lucid dream. And then you also have to be able to have thought control as well, because as good as somebody might want to have a lucid dream, so with you directly, if you had the intention of having a lucid dream with the intention of asking a dream character, why does this dream keep showing up? What do I need to do to change this? Um, it's just fascinating, because the only way to get there is in your waking life doing certain steps as well.
Okay.
And so you personally, you can very much, I don't want to jump away from that question and just completely go off the side with lucid living here. I still want to kind of answer that question that you were asking. It's just, it does play a role in how you do your waking life goes into there, because you could want to change that or talk to your subconscious. But when you gain awareness in a lucid dream and you understand what you can actually do, that intention sometimes goes to the trash. And sometimes you could want to really have an intention, but in your waking life, if you are not practicing thought control or impulse control and stuff, then in the dream, you might actually be carried away within the whim of what's going on. And so that's the very trippy thing, or that's a very hard thing about this subject is, for me, I wanted to ask that question to that dream character, but it took me like 2 lucid dreams, because the first lucid dream, I gained awareness and I'm like, forget the question. I'm going to go jump off this. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. And so once you see that this stuff is real, it does take a bit of practice to actually achieve your goal, because you start to, you're like, you got to wear the blinders as like a racehorse. It does, you get kind of, your attention does get taken away. And then that's where it matters. In your waking life, you do certain things and you have a certain awareness as you go through your waking life, that then when you go into a dream state and you have that intention and then you gain awareness, you're actually going to actually do your plan of action. And the other thing that people do, I've done this in a lucid dream as well. You can repeat affirmations in a lucid dream, and you're not like when you're awake and you're repeating an affirmation, you are trying to connect to the subconscious. You're trying to talk to the subconscious. When you're in a lucid dream or an out-of-body experience, you basically are the closest, if not in the subconscious, that you could possibly be. And so if you do affirmations in this very sensitive state, it actually would carry over a lot stronger than people doing it while they're awake. And so if you just repeated an affirmation while you're awake 100 times and you repeated it 100 times in a lucid dream, the lucid dream part of it would be far more influencing your subconscious of what's going on. So people can always just repeat an affirmation of, I am, X, Y, or Z, fill it in, just I am, and then just fill in the blank. But you could just gain awareness in a lucid dream, sit down and just repeat that affirmation until you wake up. And that's going to be a good way to really talk to the subconscious of what you want to happen.
That speaks to that yoga nidra, where you're in that brain state and you're using sankalpa is the term that we use, but just repeating a positive I am statement over and over, because we're accessing a part of the brain that we can't access in our awake state. So that's
exactly it. That's it. That's 100% it. And it's far more influenced. You're influencing yourself a lot more when you're in that relaxed state saying that affirmation than if you were awake, really stimulated, and then you said that affirmation. It wouldn't carry as much weight to the subconscious where a lot of the change would take place. And so that it's basically what you were just saying. Just the difference of, I'd say, adding, gas on the fire. If you want it to work the best for you, go into a dream state, repeat your affirmations there, and then see how that plays out in your waking life.
Beautiful. So for people like kind of the beginner, we'll say, that wants to actually start remembering their dreams because they don't even remember their dreams, what are some tools that they can use to start to remember their dreams?
Yeah, and so the thing is, when I start to talk about this stuff, it does come off as simple, and people will go, okay, if it is this easy, how come I haven't, how come more people aren't doing this, or why haven't I stumbled across this? It really is that simple. This is a natural thing. You're supposed to have dreams. We're supposed to remember them. This is a natural process. It's just a lot of people's daily habits and lifestyles actually kind of cut that off. And that's not always on them. A lot of times it's society and culture. I get it. People, it's hard sometimes to live, to just function and go to work every day and pay the bills. I totally get it. But if you're starting off, you want to start off with, this is already something you're doing. So I wouldn't approach this with I haven't had a dream, somebody saying they haven't had a dream in years, and they're nervous. Just understand that you're just not doing a few easy steps, and you would be blown away once you start applying. And so the first step is, like I said earlier, if you never ask yourself, are you dreaming while you're awake? You're never going to ask that while you're sleeping. Same thing with your memory. If you don't literally tell yourself, I want to remember my next dream, why would your brain want to do that? And so there's so much going on in our lives today, so much stimulation, so much, what's going on in 2 months from now. Everybody has a big calendar. I get it. It's a lot of stuff in the mind. And so you have to tell yourself what's important to you. And because your mind's just filtering out all the unimportant stuff. And so you need to start to tell yourself that this is an important topic to you. That alone is going to change your whole mindset of things. So every time before you go to bed, you're actually going to repeat to yourself, I have the ability to remember my dreams. I recommend later on, create your own affirmation. But for right now, anybody listening, that direct, I have the ability to remember my dreams, is going to do wonders. Repeat that 5 to 10 times before you go to bed. And so that alone, doing nothing else, will stimulate a little bit of a dream. And that's just all across the board for people. You do that multiple days in a row. And again, this is for going to bed sober as well. And so if anybody's going to bed on any THC, alcohol, or a lot of times pharmaceutical medication does stimulate the brain to a thing. And so obviously would never recommend getting off of any type of stuff without talking to a doctor, but there are stuff that goes into certain types of medication do keep you certainly stimulated to a degree. And that might hurt the recall process. So it's important that you're trying to your best ability to do it as sober as possible. Again, that's just the best way to start this stuff. But just repeat 5 to 10 times that affirmation. And then every morning when you wake up, you need to keep a dream journal. It might feel goofy if you haven't had one ever, but it does become very natural. And the dream journal is for anything. If you had a 4-second dream of somebody with a red shirt and that's all you remember, you bet you're going to write, I had a dream, somebody with a red shirt. That's it. If you just had a dream that you were scared, you don't remember where you were, what happened, who, what, where, when, why, you don't remember any of that. All you remember is you got really scared at some point in your dream. Write that down. So you're going to go from just writing, I was scared, or I had a fun time, or I was with an old buddy from high school or grade school, or all I remember is I had this or that. You're going to start to go from very, very short phrases in your dream journal to extremely long pages. You can go from a whole page and a half. Some people's, dream journal is pretty intense, but you want to repeat that affirmation as you go to bed. And then you want to keep a dream journal as you wake up every single morning. But there is one other thing that if you apply this, it does make it far easier. Um, and this technique is important right when you wake up. So you're doing this after you wake up, before you dream journal. And dream journaling is the thing you're doing immediately when you wake up. So this is, you're not out of bed. What you do is you wake up out of a dream. If you wake up and you go, oh, had no dream last night, or I can't remember any of my dream, remember, you had a dream, you just don't remember it. So therefore, don't pick up your cell phone. Don't stimulate yourself with any TV or anything. Lay back down in bed on your back. And what you're going to do, you do this every single morning. You lay down on your back, and for 5 to 10 seconds, all you're doing, I'd say about 10 to start off with, do 10 seconds here because you want to do it for a little bit to start off with. Once you get a lot easier and better at it, you can do your own time frame here. But for about 10 seconds, you want to go through all of your most common emotions that you go through in your waking life. And so you go, did I have a dream? With your eyes closed, you're not interacting with this world at all. You just woke up, you're awake, you then close your eyes and lay back down in bed. For 10 seconds, you truly ask yourself, did I have a dream that I was excited in? Did anything happen last night in my dream that got me excited? And you just let it, you sit there passively for about 10 seconds. And then you go, did anything in my dream happen that got me nervous? Was I nervous at all in this dream? Was there anything that happened that got me nervous? And then you just wait 10 seconds. You do this as many emotions as you can think of. Did anything make me happy? No. You'll be surprised that after about 40 seconds, you're on your fifth one and you're like, okay, did somebody surprise me? And then you're like, wait, somebody walked around the corner and that scared me in this alleyway. Okay, I was in an alleyway. And then you can really start to pick up that dream, and then it literally fills itself in for you. But that is what you want to do. You just want to, for very passively, ask yourself, like you're asking Google, did I have a dream last night of me being scared, or me running, me flying? And if you don't, that's fine. Wake up and write down in your dream journal, no experience. You do that every single day. You tell yourself 5 to 10 times going to bed. You wake up, you do this technique, and you keep a dream journal. You're going to start to see a pretty drastic change from nothing to a full-on lucid dreaming journal. And once you actually go from having no dreams to a small dream to then a little bit longer, and now you're kind of liking dream journals, all of those are signposts that you are knocking on the door of an experience. And so just know that the more you start to remember your dreams, the longer your dreams start to become, the closer you are to an experience. And so it's really cool teaching somebody, because they'll start off at the first class with saying they don't have any dreams. And then a month later, they'll reach out with all these experiences. And it's just fascinating to see the progression. And it's just very common for people to say they don't have experiences, but just apply those techniques for 1 to 30 days. I give it 1 to 7 to start to see something, but 1 to 30 to actually have a full-blown experience. But 1 to 7 days, you should at least start to see something come up out of the subconscious of the dream.
So for those people that are scared of dreams, or scared to go to bed, and they might be on medications, or they might be drinking before bed, all that kind of stuff, are there a few practices that come to mind for you to start to not fear going to bed, and maybe eventually starting to get off of the substances to ease the sleeping experience?
Yes, that would be to, similar with how I talked earlier, is changing your mindset to go to bed. And so to kind of add on to your question there, another thing that people are really scared about is sleep paralysis as well. And so, all of those fears come in. And so that's a big way that whenever you're approaching sleep with any type of, you have to take a substance to go to bed, or you have to do, X, Y, or Z to get to bed. Once you understand that, one, this is, like I've said, very easy technique. So change your mindset from going to bed of, okay, going to bed's always, stressful, it's always this, to you are, it's kind of weird to say, but you are very close to having this profound experience that 1/3 of your life, you just wake up and you basically throw away the winning lottery ticket every morning. You're just throwing it in the trash. But you have this chance to actually have a full-blown experience. So if you're ever nervous about going into these experiences or nervous for this, change that to being excited, because unless every single person is lying in the world from the start of mankind with this stuff, these experiences are real. And so somebody might come out of an experience with some sort of interpretation, and that might be negative or fearful or demonic, or, all these words that describe something negative. But nobody can say these doesn't exist, that people for all of time haven't had these experiences. So you can change your mindset to be very excited and go, okay, I could be a part of those people that have these experiences. None of your friends could be having this. Nobody in your social circle could be practicing this stuff, but just get excited that a third of your life you're about to get back. That alone should get, a little bit of an excitement back of, you start to go, how much have I been missing? What am I missing here? Is this really doable? And then you start to, once you have your first experience, so that's why I like to teach techniques that are very easy to have a quick experience on, because once you have your first experience, you get super excited to go to bed sober. You get really excited, even if you're up watching a movie, you're like, oh man, once you start to understand all the possibilities that await you, if you've never had an experience and you're told you can do anything you want, it almost freezes you, because right now, if you got $1 million, not a lot of people know what to do with that besides pay off debt or the very common things. But it's you tell somebody they're all invincible or they're all powerful in this experience, and I know, because it did for me, it kind of freezes you at first, because if everything's possible, what do you want to do? But if you go into these experiences with, okay, I can actually do something in my waking life to induce an experience that I could have only literally dreamt about, that should start to change how you view going to sleep. Instead of this thing that you have to get done to rest your physical body for the next day at work, you can start to go, okay, I'm actually excited to go to bed. Nobody interrupt me, because I'm trying to have this experience here. You actually start to get almost, I don't want to say any negative word associated with it, but you get very straightforward about your bedtime routine. Actually, you go from fearing it to actually wanting to go to bed, staying in bed for longer. And I do want to I'll be more personal with it. With an undiagnosed broken jaw, I mean, laying on a pillow is like being punched, like every second. It's super excruciating. The jaw is literally like not in the correct location, and you're laying on a pillow on your side, and it's just excruciating. And so that alone, I couldn't lay down, and to go to sleep, to even have a lucid dream, you have to be able to lay your head down on a pillow. And so I understand that there are a lot of hurdles to, if somebody's nervous, to have these experiences, but just on the other side of that fear, or just on the other side of that anxiousness, is an experience that's going to wipe all that away. And all it takes is a 5-second experience, and then you understand, okay, what I'm doing in my waking life is working. I need to practice more, maybe I need to learn more, but at least it's real. At least this is real. And if I achieved it once, I could definitely achieve it again. And if I achieved it for 5 seconds, maybe I could go for 10 seconds next time. And the cool thing is that kind of pathway opens up to you going, okay, maybe I can have this for a few days. And so then you go, maybe I can turn a 1.5-hour sleep cycle into a 2-day lucid dream. And then once you get into those types of ways of thinking, you want to go to bed. You want your bedtime not messed with. If somebody's talking to me and they want to, hang out at night or something, I will say, oh, I want to be at home. And I won't always explain why, but just personally, I want to be going to bed at a certain time, always doing certain things, because every night you're going to bed, these experiences are just waiting for you. So if you're afraid of them, really ask why you're afraid of it. If it's because of the experience itself and you've never had the experience, you really need to unpack why that fear is there. From something you've never experienced, that I would seem it's somewhat placed on. That's where, when you understand how natural this process is, you can kind of come to the conclusion of, okay, this is a natural process. You're going to have to interpret it however it plays out for you, but you at least know it's natural, so you can do it. and then it's doable. Everybody's doing it. Even kids are doing it at 4 years old. So you could probably do it if you just focused. You start to open your mind up that it's doable, and then that's all it takes. And like I was saying, I know I've said it, but with the jaw, all it took was that one experience to go, okay, even if I am hurting laying down on this pillow, I know if I just focus for a little bit longer, I will be able to basically get out of this painful experience as I'm sleeping, because you have to sleep, you have to go to bed, you have to rest your physical body. So if you have to do something that you're nervous about, just change that to excitement. And that's almost impossible to do just by words. It's like telling somebody who's anxious, like, stop being anxious. Like it's sometimes hard to do just from words. But this is one of the only spiritual practices that I've ever seen to where it's not any type of, okay, just hope, just think about something else. So if you're hurting, just think about something that makes you happy, which is beautiful. Those techniques work. But this is something to where before I was starting to do these techniques, my pain would set in and I would just repeat, these certain positive affirmations or certain things that try to help my physical body relax, help the tension in my jaw relax. But once I was like, oh, you can actually leave this physical body, have a real experience that's profound, extremely profound, really, I mean, they're amazing experiences. And then you can come back and wake up. You all of a sudden want to you want to have more of these experiences. And who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want to have these experiences? So it really does come to the factor of ask yourself, who told you that this was fearful? If you are somebody who's afraid of this stuff and you've never experienced it, that's a big thing you need to unpack as well. And then not question you asked, but to go into it, if you've had these experiences and you're scared of them, that is also a very common thing. That's where a lot of lucid living actually takes place. So if you're somebody, and this is common as well, I went through this same stage of, I've been doing this for years now. And so I did start off with, if everything is possible, what if that happens to me? What if, okay, I understand that it's all possible. So that means all the good is real. So what about the bad? What if, I've had people say, I don't want someone to come in and murder me in a lucid dream. And I don't want someone to come in and beat me up in a lucid dream, and all the above, right? For these fears that people don't want to happen to them. And so it's interesting because in waking life right now, if somebody was coming into the home, you can't just close your eyes, meditate, and visualize that they're gone and they'll be gone. They're coming in that house. And so in waking life, there's actually real fear. There's real anxiety. And if you understand that you have this power in a lucid dream, that you are this all powerful, you are this creator in this experience, I mean, things are just at your whim of manifestations. Very enlightening. It's very cool. It is just straight up cool to go into these experiences, and it's just seeing the stuff just appear out of thin air just by thinking and focusing your thought. It's very energizing. And so when you understand and you don't just think about, it's a difference between being able to talk about the subject and then actually understanding through experience how powerful you are. Because then you almost, like I said earlier, I've had an experience where I manifested something attacking me. And as it was coming at me, I actually was laughing to myself because I knew that I did this. I knew I can get out of it in 1 second. I then got out of the experience and then kept going on. And so you just have to, it comes to a understanding, and the understanding comes from experience, that once you understand, and this is for people who have had a lucid dream and are scared to go back into the environment because of an experience, that you can, one, you're still alive, right? Everybody that's had a nervous experience from a lucid dream lived to talk about it. Nobody has ever died in a lucid dream and then woke up and said, oh my gosh, don't do this because you'll die. And then they're like, but dude, you're alive right now talking to me. But I, died in a dream last night. And so then you go, okay, well, every single person is still alive that has ever had a negative experience with this stuff. Nobody has ever died and then woken up and told about it. So anybody's fear about this stuff is very overcome. You can overcome it very easily, because once you understand how powerful you are, it doesn't matter if you have a negative energy value. It doesn't matter if you have a gross person coming at you, or a really, honestly, a straight up scary figure coming out of some staircase at you. I've been in the ocean where I'm swimming in a full lucid dream, and all around me, octopus tentacles slowly start coming up out of the water. It's horrifying, right? That'd be really terrifying. Not only that, like the tentacles then of course swung for me. They wrapped around me. In a lucid dream, it's just as real as waking life. So the same sensations and everything, the suction cup of the tentacles, like everything was wrapping around my body like a mummy. My arms were to my sides. This octopus literally had me wrapped up, and I had a half a second of natural fear when I saw the tentacles coming up out of the water. The moment I understood that I'm in a lucid dream, I just closed my eyes, mindful meditated. So I'm kind of leading into something here. Mindful meditation within a lucid dream will literally cut off any of these negative experiences. The reason you're in the experience is because your eyes and your senses are keeping you there. And so if you remove your senses from the environment, you're not there anymore. And so somebody might go, oh, so if somebody's beating you up, you would close your eyes and meditate? Absolutely, yes. If somebody was attacking you, if somebody was on top of you, if somebody was hurting you, you would close your eyes. You wouldn't interact with that person or the animal or the environment. You'd close your eyes and you'd follow your breath through your nose into the body and out. Just mindful breathing. And you do that in a half a second. I don't like to, share scary dream experiences, but these are real experiences. And so I like to share some of the scary ones because I've had, I'd say 98% joyful, but there are some negative ones. And I've been, people in my lucid dream have tried to drown me before in a lucid dream. And I've been, out of the water for half a second, and then they push me back under. And then it gets to me out of the water. And then there's 4 people holding me under instead of 2 that I at first could fight off, right? And then after I fight off 4 people, I got 6 people coming at me, holding me under. And if you don't practice this stuff from real experience, somebody would go, well, you have to fight them off. You gotta do all this stuff. One, if you understand how powerful you are, you can do that stuff. You absolutely can. But like what we were talking about earlier with the alcohol example, you don't have to interact with the scenery all the time. You don't have to always interact with it. You can change it to your own experience. So in that experience where they were holding me underwater, again, every bit of this seems unnatural in waking life, but that's why it's fearful to do this in a lucid dream, because it's so unnatural in waking life. If you're underwater and somebody was holding you down, the last thing you would do is close your eyes and breathe underwater. You'd be helping them out. Well, what I did while I was someone was holding me under by my shoulders, I closed my eyes. I knew I was dreaming, so I knew I could breathe underwater. So I started to do mindful breathing, and instantly the experience ended. So mindful breathing is something people need to have in their back pocket, like a mixed martial artist has. Just always on the go-to, because you can fight those. If you understand really how powerful you are, you could destroy those people in just a thought process, but which is also fun. But you don't have to interact with anything negative. And the other thing is, once you're in there, everything's good. You're all powerful. But to even get in there, maybe somebody goes, I don't want to have to meditate and get out of this experience. I don't want to be in an environment where someone's trying to drown me and then have to get out of that with a mindset or willpower. The thing that's important is this concept of as above, so below type of thing plays in with how you live your life in your waking life, plays into these dream states. So before you go to bed, this last one is for people who are scared, all the above. So this is for people, just any version of scared. What you do is before you go to bed at night, before you go to bed for your experience, if you're going to meditate to have an out-of-body experience, if you're going to lucid dream for the night, for 5 to 10 minutes before you try to go into that experience, so before you go to bed or try to meditate, you're going to do a 5 to 10 minute gratitude meditation. That is a way that's where the as above, so below will come into place. It comes into a play a lot deeper. But for this portion of what I'm talking about is what you're doing right here, right now, who you are right now is going to transfer into this next environment. And so if you can raise your frequency to this type of love, gratitude, kind, wholeheartedness frequency, you're going to experience, you're going to enter into the room, and that room is going to be filled with basically that vibration. And so that is what I actually did in the beginning. I started to have experiences where it'd be really fun. And then every 1 out of 30 would be something like I just described, a little negative. And so, I got to the point where I'm like, okay, I understand I'm all powerful here, but I don't want to have to always, I don't want, is there a way I can maybe not even go into that experience to experience anything negative? And it's just doing a gratitude meditation. And it's very simple. For 5 to 10 minutes, everything you're thankful for, they're all over YouTube of how to, different gratitude meditations. But they're just an easy way to prime yourself to enter your environment in a very light and kind of loving environment, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah. Yeah. With that, are there you've spoken about lucid living. So are there other practices that you can do during the day that affect your dream state and you're able to go into those lucid dreams? But also, I just want to ask about sleep paralysis and what is sleep paralysis? I've had it probably a handful of times in my life.
Yeah.
I don't like it. I don't think anybody would like it.
So
knowing what it is, I think, is helpful.
That's the whole thing with anybody getting there. So I'll answer the sleep paralysis first here, and then because they're going to the lucid living, we'll kind of get off on that for a second, because that's some really good stuff there too. So for sleep paralysis, the same thing with people who are afraid. It's just understanding, educating on what this is, what's going on. And so once you go down the road of lucid dreaming and out-of-body experiences, you are going to experience sleep paralysis. And that's a great thing. And so same thing that I said about changing the mindset, people need to do the same thing with sleep paralysis, and they need to welcome it as a friend. It needs to be something that's very beneficial for that person. So if you're nervous, sleep paralysis is basically you're leaving the door open and you can go into the experience. You're already there. Your body, you want to have sleep paralysis. So if you're scared of it, I understand why. You're paralyzed. You usually can function in your waking life. It would be scary if you can't move, but thank God you can't, because could you imagine if you were doing all the stuff in your dreams in your waking life in your body? So your body has to paralyze itself to go to sleep, because unless you're asleep, again, this might be different for sleepwalkers. Haven't really taught a lot of those people. But if you're somebody who is not a sleepwalker, you should be very thankful that your body paralyzes you, because it would be horrifying to see what's going on during the, I'm saying, you could be hurting somebody, hurting yourself. And so that right there tells you this is natural. Again, understanding a lot of this process is a natural process that we're just not educated about. And once you go, okay, this is natural, not as scary as I thought. And then you go, wait, I'm trying to self-induce this purposely. That's where it gets kind of a little anxiousness, because, you can meditate all you want, or you can meditate all you want to get into sleep paralysis. But once you actually achieve it, it's very scary, because again, we're not taught that this is a natural process. So unless you're taught from the beginning that, no, this is actually really helpful, and use that as a signpost. So that's all sleep paralysis is a signpost for me, that I guess the common definition is your body does have to be put to sleep through chemicals. So your body releases chemicals to put your body to sleep as it dreams. But for me, I use it as a signpost that every time I wake up in sleep paralysis, I'm like, oh, sweet, I'm already in the experience. I just kind of woke up a little too early. So what you can do then, if you're in sleep paralysis, you can then do a technique that'll fling you into a lucid dream or an out-of-body experience. And so you're basically paralyzed and you're trying to move your body and it's frozen. So, and it's so interesting, because what you're wanting to do is focus all of your attention away from this physical body that's paralyzed. But the average person will fight like hell to stay in that body and will try to move their hand, and they'll try all they can. And what they're doing is placing their consciousness in their physical body that's paralyzed instead of placing it outside of their physical body, because it's where thought goes. It's where the thought goes is where it's going to be happening. All the experiences are. So if your thought is, how can I move my hand? Well, your consciousness is now back rooted in your physical body, in your hand. And so it just makes sense that you want to go, okay, if you wake up in sleep paralysis, repeat over and over and over, almost like a crazy person. I am at my door. I am at the door. I am out of my body. I have an affirmation ready before you go to bed of what you want to say, in case, like a mixed martial artist, right? He's got all these tools in his tool belt, but he only uses maybe 2 special moves, but he can use 10 if he needs to. And so go to bed with already thing in the back pocket of, just in case sleep paralysis happens, I'm going to have this affirmation ready. If it does happen and you repeat that over and over, you're going to project yourself into an experience in like a half a second. So your body is doing its natural thing when you're dreaming. Your body still thinks you're dreaming. That's why it's not moving. So you can go back to dreaming instantly. You don't have to go through this whole process of walking your brain back to theta, from beta to alpha, theta. You don't have to do any of that. Your body's already done it. You just kind of synced up wrong with it. And then you can go, oh, amazing. I can have another experience. And the interesting thing is, again, when you really start to practice this on a regular basis, you'll have a lucid dream end, you'll wake up in sleep paralysis, and then you can project into another lucid dream completely different from the dream you were just in. And it will almost reset the clock for you. So the sleep paralysis is an amazing sign for you that you're on the right path and that you're already in the doorway. You don't even have to open the door for this experience. You've opened the door already. You're stepping through it. You just have to go through the door here. And what that means is you have to have that affirmation ready before you get into that experience. Because if you're in that experience, then you go, oh, wait, I heard something on a podcast. I need to have an affirmation ready. Okay, what affirmation should I say? That thought process is almost impossible, because you're going to be freaking out in this experience that you're paralyzed. Versus before you get in this experience, know your affirmation. So then when you're paralyzed, you can easily do that. You can easily say your affirmations. And that's the other thing, is you're trying to do, like I was saying earlier, a mind awake, body asleep. That is what sleep paralysis is. So when I go to meditate to have an out-of-body experience, I purposely self-induce sleep paralysis while I'm awake. And that's why I was talking about how the signs are kind of different with lucid dreaming and OBEs, or one, there's like a slippage in time, it seems like. Because with this practice, your body will start at the toes, start to go numb, all the way up to the head, to the crown, and then all of a sudden you will be paralyzed. And then if you know what to do from there, that's a launching pad. That's something amazing. That tells me when I'm paralyzed, awesome, I'm here. And then that tells me, okay, I gotta do something, or I'm gonna start, or you might start to freak out because you don't want that attention there. You want to put your body in sleep paralysis, and then you want to have your experience. You don't want to just stay there. So sleep paralysis is a great thing. And if you didn't have it, you'd be having some really crazy stories when you woke up.
Yeah, I think what is so terrifying for me when that has happened is I think that somebody's holding me down. And so, something happens where I'm like, something is holding me down, and then I start freaking out. So that's really helpful to know that it's a really powerful place to be in, and I can.
Yes, that's a great word for it. Powerful place to be in. I like that.
I can use an affirmation to take me somewhere, I guess, back out of my body. Yeah.
Because people who practice this for a long extent, it's funny because when someone tells me that, it's, to me, I go, that's what I'm trying to do every night. I try to get into sleep paralysis as often as I can. So it's funny when someone says they want to avoid it as much as possible, when these experiences, you don't necessarily guarantee have to be in it to have one, because people have them all sorts of ways. But the most common ways are putting your body to sleep and then projecting out as well. And so it's just understanding the body as a natural rhythm to it, understanding what's natural versus what's not natural, and knowing that sleep paralysis is natural. So it's nothing that needs to be, feared.
Yeah, I think that's key, is when you don't have any awareness around it and it just happens, you're
Yeah.
just in fear because you don't know what is happening in that
And then
moment.
not only that, most of the culture reinforces that fearful mindset of sleep paralysis. There's a documentary on Netflix, I think called Shadow People or something. And basically, the whole documentary is about how terrifying sleep paralysis is and how these entities come and get you in sleep paralysis. Basically, it's like a really, intense documentary
Wow.
about sleep paralysis. And it was just, they didn't have one side of it presenting the other side of what is sleep paralysis? It's a natural process. And this is actually a kind of a great segue into lucid living, your other question you asked. If somebody, and I've done this too, this is just what's going on as well. There are real energies that exist. There are real things that are going on, but there are also real thought forms that you project that exist as well. And I've seen those myself. And I've also interacted with things that I would believe were not my own thought forms. But when it comes to sleep paralysis, a lot of people are projecting their own thought forms. And then if they're reinforced with, yeah, that is a negative experience, they're going to kind of hold on to that and go, I did see a shadow person by my door. And then someone tells them, oh yeah, that was a demon and this and this. And then they're, why would they practice this stuff if they thought that, I get it. I totally get it. But a lot of the time it is self-responsibility with this stuff of, and that's hard for people because, or for me in general, starting off of going, okay, I'm not doing this to myself. This is something else doing it to me. When in reality, a lot of it was myself doing it to me. Like I said, I do believe there are other energies out there, obviously, that exist. But for a lot of people, the intro fear is like what we were talking about, just this fear of the experience. And you go in, this experience takes place in a thought responsive realm. So if you're in a thought responsive realm and you're scared, therefore you're going to manifest everything you're scared of. And so that's where lucid living takes place in your waking life. So, the golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated, right? A lot of people would say, I treat people nicely and this happens. Or someone might say they treat somebody nicely and this keeps happening, right? The thing is with lucid living is you want to be in control of your emotional response to things, as well as how you kind of interact your visuals throughout the day. So there's two things that people do for lucid living. We're going to start with the visuals. So in your day, everything that you see in your waking life, you kind of want to play with the idea that this is a dream as well. This is more of an Eastern practice, but you and I talking right now, someone who's lucid living, it's kind of like doing reality checks all day. Reality check is something you do in your physical life on a repetitive process, and then you repeat it so much physically that in your when you go to dream, you've repeated it so much in your waking life that when you go to dream, you do the same thing in the dream, and then you gain awareness. So that's a very popular thing people do, is reality checks. And lucid living through objects is basically doing reality checks throughout the whole day. So as you and I are talking, I've looked at the time, you and I are talking, and I mean, you don't really know what I'm looking at the time, but I've looked at the time twice now, and I've made sure that it's the time that it says it is. And so in a lucid dream, that time would be different. And so what you do throughout your whole day is you play with these visuals of everything you're doing. So right now, my glass of water is about a quarter of the way full. As I am going to come drink it right now and talking to you, you wouldn't know what I'm doing. This doesn't have to be a big show for anybody. So right then and there, what I'm doing is I'm visualizing the water overflowing the cup. So I'm visualizing that my quarter of water that's left here, actually, once I drank it, is filling straight up to the top so much it's overflowing. And so you're just playing with these fun visuals all day. It's kind of breaking this hard grip that you have, that you only exist in this waking form and that you can't really have these experiences. A great quote, actually. Have you seen Alice in Wonderland anytime in the last few years?
Not in the last few years, no, but I remember it.
There's a Disney Plus has it live action on it. So my fiance and I were watching it not too long ago, and a lot of this stuff plays in a lot of these movies, by the way, some heavy truth in a lot of this stuff. But Alice is a very popular line, and I think she says, I might butcher the line, but she says like her father used to think of 6 impossible things before breakfast. Um, and then she's walking out on the courtyard and she's looking at the birds, and her fiance's like, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm visualizing I'm flying with those birds. And he's like, get your head out of the clouds. And so basically what she's doing is saying, think of 6 impossible things before breakfast. Think that your cat is now 2 cats. Think that that fridge opened up by itself when you walked to it to get your food. Think that the sink turned out purple water instead of the clear water that you drink. So you just play with these visuals only when you're not driving. You don't operate with heavy machinery and drive and do this stuff. This is you're being very aware here. And what this does is it brings your awareness to the physical moment of what you're doing. And it also helps kind of stretch that imagination you have. So when you're going to a lucid dream, you don't want to go in there, if everything is possible, you don't want to go in there with this kind of rigid imagination. If you go in there with all day you were making this happen, making that happen, and then you go into a thought responsive realm, now you're actually going to make that glass of water fill up. You're actually going to manifest your best friend from high school that you haven't seen, or for, you're honestly, people have like dogs and stuff like that through these experiences that they want to see again. And, or maybe they just want to have a fun time here, or see the beach, or whatever it is for the person. When you have this fun visual throughout your day, it then directly plays over to kind of letting your mind kind of be stretched a little easier in these realms. So did that kind of make sense before I get into the emotional part of it, of how you can use an object?
Yes, that definitely makes sense. Just playing with reality. That's what it felt like.
Yeah. And then the cool thing is, not only will that help you, like I said, loosen up that mind, but once you're like, reality check, you do this all day in your waking life, in a dream, you're going to do it as well. And then when that cup starts to fill up, okay, this is a dream. If I was talking to you right now and I looked at the time and I looked away and I looked again and it was 7 p.m., I would be like, oh, this is a dream, shut the computer. And I would do, I would then, you use it as a reality check. So that's a kind of a more hardcore reality check, but that is called lucid living from objects. You just approach everything. You can even sit down on the couch and act like you fell through the couch. So you're just always playing with your visuals of what you want to happen. And I've seen my own self, like a clear as day difference in my confidence when I go into a lucid dream. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know if this was possible. Or maybe you heard you can do this, but you can't do that in a lucid dream. You start to play with your imagination all day. No limits anymore. You can do that. You can do this. If there's a limit, you actually start to try to do it, because you're like, okay, there aren't really any limits. And if I think that's a limit, let me see if I can actually do that. And so that's where the whole kind of think of impossible things throughout the day are. But the more thing for people try to set the intention, like what we were talking about with gratitude, is emotion through lucid living. So same thing. Anytime you have an emotional reaction throughout the day of any type, you want to check yourself and do a reality check and ask, are you dreaming? And this is a genuine question you want to ask yourself. And you want to really test it. And testing it is doing a reality check. So if you have an emotional thing happen to you, you don't react. The reason that you're already having non-lucid dreams is because and this isn't a blanketed statement, this is just what happens for some people, is you're living a reactive lifestyle. And so if you're always reactive to people in your waking life, you're never going to stop a dream character who's messing with you and actually stop and go, is this a lucid dream? No way. This guy's being such a jerk. This guy's such a douche. All this stuff. You're never going to get that answer, because you're going to be reactive to everything emotionally. And so in your waking life, when you start to clock your emotional reactions to things, you become far less reactive, and then you become far more proactive. And that's all we want. That's the dreamless sleep compared to a lucid dream, is somebody's just at the whim of a dream character. Oh my gosh, my fiance or boyfriend kept telling me to go over there, and I could never find them in the store. They were making me so frustrated. They kept telling me to find them, and I they're always 5 steps ahead of me. Okay, you're getting emotional, you're getting frustrated. You should have stopped. And so when you keep a dream journal, what you do is in your dream journal for objects, you'll be writing down all this stuff in your dream. You'll get to the point where you go, okay, and then a car lifted off the ground and blah, blah, blah. And then when you look over your dream journal, you go, oh, well, when the car lifted off the ground is when I should have gained awareness. That's when I should have stopped and done a reality check. So then in your waking life, same thing. When something wild happens, something emotional happens, if in the dream journal, again, you wrote, this guy was really pissing you off because he kept cutting you in line. And every time you let him in front of you in line, another person would cut you in line. And it was like a repeat of hell, and just over and over, people cutting you in line. And when you write down on a dream journal and then you look back at that, you can go, oh, okay, I emotionally reacted to being cut in line. I should have done a reality check because I got an emotion. And so when you're in your waking life and you're doing that, it plays over into the dream. So waking life happens, something negative happens to you. This isn't being like, approaching a subject with, don't react to anything. Like, I get people are human. I do understand that aspect of it. This is just for when you can control it. If you're having an emotional reaction to something, that thing is trying to get you to react to it, obviously, or you are being some portion of yourself allowed to be controlled by whatever that is. So if you can step back from that and go, I get this thing might be genuinely frustrating, but that takes away that frustration. If you go, I'm not going to feed into you, or I'm not going to feed into this BS, because the more I feed into this BS in my waking life, every single time in my dreams that I feed into this, so you know what, I'm going to start to feed into this more positive, and I'm going to start to be less reactive and less emotional in my waking life. So then in my dream state, I become less emotional reactive. And then when a dream character is yelling at you, all you can be is like, all right, well, because you're not offended that they're yelling, you're not angry, you're trying to win the argument or win the conversation. You're just watching your emotions rise. And that's where people go, oh, well, if you practice this stuff, you're not really living in reality. But in realness, most people are not living in the moment. Most people are living in future ambitions. Most people are living at past mistakes or past experiences or past fun things, whatever it is. Most people's minds are always in the future or in the past. Even when you're speaking to them, they'll be thinking of what they're going to do tomorrow. And you'll be like, hey, dude, you hear what I'm saying? Oh, sorry, got a meeting tomorrow. They were not living in their brain was somewhere else. And so don't let it might sound odd at first doing this type of stuff, but when you practice this, you actually start to live very in the moment in this reality, because you're analyzing your actual emotional response and if it's valid. And I'm not saying, oh, emotion's not valid. I'm saying if somebody, if you showed up to your favorite restaurant and on Google review or on Google, it says they're open and they're closed because of some special holiday, instead of getting pissed off, annoyed at that, clock where that emotion's coming from, do a reality check, and that's going to allow you to stop being so just reactive in an actual real way in your waking life. That's how some of these practices can really benefit just you in general. Instead of having somebody yelling at you and thinking, oh, I can't wait for my turn to speak, I'm going to get this person, or I'm going to say this awesome line and get them. In a lucid dream, you're going to do the same thing. So therefore, you're not going to be lucid. And so if you can step back from being emotionally reactive and understand, why am I feeling this way? Okay, it's because my favorite store was closed. Okay, it's not really the end of the world. You become less emotionally jumpy. Even that few seconds of just taking that second to understand where the emotion's coming from stops you from being so jumpy. Then that allows you to bring your consciousness into the present moment by doing a reality check and going, okay, well, was this a dream? And it kind of becomes funny, because you go, like a direct example, if somebody was rude to you, maybe said a snarky comment to you as they brushed past you in line because you bumped their cart or something, instead of letting that bother you, almost like laugh about it and be like, oh yeah, that's just like, that person's own issue. I don't need to get upset about that. This is obviously waking life. Is this, you ask yourself, is this a dream? It's not a dream, but you still play with that kind of imagination. And it just takes away all the power from the situation, because it's no longer this situation that if somebody, I guess what I'm getting at is, if somebody goes, I'm tired of treating, they don't want to keep treating people kindly because they keep getting the bad end of the stick. Well, I would say instead of I guess going into other people's nature, or I guess leaving who you really are, and saying, yeah, you know what, if people are doing this to me, I'm going to do it to them back. So that is fine. That's fine. But if you're trying to do these experiences and you are reacting emotionally, you can bet a dream character is going to keep you emotionally reactive in a conversation. And that is like the most annoying thing in the world, when you're in a dream and you're being messed with, and you could stop it if you just knew how to do it. But because you're so emotional in the dream, you're like, oh no, F you. Why did you do that? Versus just calming down. And even if it's a genuine slight, or if it's a genuine emotional reaction, you can be a human, but it's just clock yourself, realize that you are emotionally reacting, and then realize that you don't have to really be so jumpy and, oh, F that. You can just kind of, oh, that was kind of messed up. And then you can go on from that. It just takes away a lot of power from situations. And so if you start to clock your emotions during the day, that's a big thing, that when you go into a dream space, you're obviously going to be emotional in a dream space. And when you are, use it to your advantage and you become aware. So it's very nice practice.
It feels like it would give so much to your present day life as well. Just that being so aware of emotions, of the moments, of reality. Like that.
That's where it gets kind of funny when people go, oh, so it seems like you're not living in reality. Versus if you actually start to apply this, really do this every day, you're going to start to notice all the flowers to the building to the left of you that you've never seen before, that are there the whole time you've worked. You're going to start to notice different scents, different smells, because you're no longer all the way in the past or future or past. You're here in the moment, actually addressing what's going on to you. You'll start to, I mean, like I'm saying here, when you actually do this practice on a regular basis, it's exactly what you said. You start to become hyper aware of the moment, actually. And you start to actually pick up on when you're constantly in the future. And it's good to plan, and it's good to have a plan, but you'll actually stop yourself and go, okay, why am I thinking of that thing that happened to me in third grade? Or why am I thinking of that party that person embarrassed me at in front of people? And okay, I need to get back on what I'm doing here. And there's like, you just really start to understand that a lot of the time your mind is in the future or past, and being in the present is a lot more enjoyable. And I've personally felt that with a lot of food. When you're so many people, myself, before I was doing this stuff, I don't know. I was just probably eating, I couldn't even taste half the food I was eating. But when you do this stuff, you really bring your consciousness into the moment. And then with those reality checks, so when you clock yourself and you do those reality checks, then it makes a lot of things more vibrant, a lot of things more memorable. You pick up on the food, the smell of the food. Every bite starts to be pretty, as long as you're conscious, you actually are aware of what you're eating. And because you're aware of what you're eating, you're aware when you're full. And so it kind of just is like this whole circle of variables that if you can just become less emotionally reactive, it's going to do amazing things for you in your physical life, just in general. But it's going to play into the dream space to where it's almost to the point where if you look at somebody who is extremely emotional, you can almost guarantee you they're having dreamless sleep, if that makes sense. You can almost guarantee that they're not having any control within a dream, because how they control their waking life is how they control their dream. How they control their waking character is how they control their dream character, right? And so if you see somebody who's super emotional and always on edge, you can pretty much assume that they're going to be like that in a dream space. They're probably not going to be some yogi all of a sudden in the dream space and just walking around meditating. They might be really reactive. And if somebody pushes them, they might shove them, they might punch them, and they're not going to have a fun experience. And so it's just really looking at someone messing with you and going, I'm not going to allow you, because right here, right now, it's not, after this moment passes, that's not going to matter anyways, if that makes sense. Like this interaction that's negative, after it's over, even as it's going on, a portion of it's basically already over. And it's not like you are changing that past in any way. And so you basically are like, okay, you do you yell, you do whatever. I'm going to not react emotionally, because you really understand that you're going to have an experience if you don't react. And the more you react, the less chance you have to, because you're like, okay, I'm not going to react. And it's not like, okay, I'm just trying to be peaceful here, which is also great. But knowing that you not reacting negative actually allows you to have success in a lucid dream on a tangible way will stop you reacting negative. Just you can have somebody do something really annoying and be like, all right, well, that happened. I didn't like it, but I got to check myself, and then you just play with the emotion, and then it doesn't really control you anymore. It's more of like a kind of fun, more of a less reactive, more proactive is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Beautiful. So with astral travel, that is like, I think it speaks to a lot of what you've been speaking to around lucid dreaming and all that kind of medicine that you've spoken about. But astral travel is like, I can go to a different dimension. Is that fair to say in my sleep state? Is that fair to say? Like I can just go, I can have an out of body experience.
Yes. And so they've tried, like the West has really tried to make science out of this. It's really tried to put equations to it, has really tried to say, frequency, energy, vibration, those are very popular things there. And what you just said is absolutely true. And so not applying any of the science with somebody would say, oh, there's 8 dimensions, there's 4 dimensions, but then there's 4 dimensions within those 4 dimensions, right? There's all these different things that people say that are existing there. But what is happening is you can have the experience and then absolutely go into these other dimensional planes of, I like to say dimensional realms. Again, an experience that your 5 senses is in. And some experiences have higher energy and frequency in them. Some experiences have lower. And to me, that would classify as different dimensions. And so and I think a lot of people land on that too. And you can actually, it's just like what we were talking about with your, the vibe or your energy that you have in your waking life to carry into this experience. You can, if you were negative and scared and really uptight and frustrated at your day, this isn't just, I want to answer this, but just brought up a great memory of when you don't react emotionally to things. When you understand that this stuff is real, and then you understand that you acting emotionally is actually causing you to act emotionally in a dream, which is then also continuing this negative cycle, you can break that. And so it's just so funny because someone's like yelling and you just go, okay, I'm going to be in this dream anyways. And so when I'm talking about specifically keeping high vibes up, keeping everything high energy in your waking life, if you're reactive to everything and you understand that you reacting is actually going to mess you up in a dream state. I have been in a day to where someone pissed me off, a legitimate grievancy, to where if you told somebody, they'd be like, oh yeah, that's objectively rude. But then I was more pissed off because I couldn't let go of that emotion, because I knew that when I went into a dream space, I'm carrying that energy with me. And now that freaking dude is going to put me in some other dimension that's lower in an experience that I should have had because I went into the experience so pissed off. And so you understand that you go, okay, I really can't have this affect me like this, because there are real consequences here with going into a dream space or an astral projection. And consequence is not a negative. It's just, this is a real consequence to being pissed off and angry, and then going into a thought responsive realm. You're gonna have an experience that matches your energy. And so that's where that kind of lucid living here with dreaming and OBE stuff really is important, because don't let that person, now they've already messed up your day for that 5 minutes. Like I've said, you can't get that past back. You can't change that they told you to F off, or you can't change that they shoulder checked you when they walked by. But what you can change is when you're going to bed at night and you're pissed off because you're thinking about that person all day, that they're actually on a real level. You might not know it if you're just kind of subconsciously reacting to things and being reactive. But once you start to pick up on that stuff, you understand that that's how you're going to act in the dream tonight. So, okay, let's let that go, do whatever you need to, let that emotion go, and then have the experience. Don't let that experience from earlier today now negatively affect your frequency to have a negative experience. And so to get back to your question, that's why I referenced mindful meditation with gratitude. So doing a gratitude meditation, Because if that happened, then all I would do is do 5 to 10 minutes of gratitude, get that kind of funky energy away from me. And that's where it would be of different dimensions and in my aspect of different levels of consciousness of people say, light and love beings or light and love energies. There is just a clear as day difference. It's hard for me because I really like to stick with techniques, and then I have my own opinion and of what the experience is. But I love to stick with the techniques. But for me, I have seen more positive, enlightened energies versus I've also seen more of the negative. And it does seem as if there is this dimensional plane that one, there's the dimension that literally exists right here, right now as well, out of our physical time and space. And so it's like, yeah, this body is confined to me having to get up, get a glass of water, and then come back. But if I was in an out of body, that time that it took me to walk to the fridge and that space would be a math equation, right? How much time did it take? What was the distance between the chair and the fridge? But that time and space doesn't exist anymore if I'm manifesting it at will. And also I'm not confined to it. So you can actually be asleep, wake up, and be traveling along this physical realm that we actually live in, like you and I are talking in right now. And then you can go to even a different experience, 180 environment. And then from there, you can go to another 180 environment, completely different realm, dimension. And a lot of those do depend on the vibration and the energy that you bring into your experience. And so you don't have to think of it as, oh, an accident made somebody mad. Is that am I, now gonna have this negative? It's genuinely like I say, serial killers don't really hang out with yogis, and yogis don't really hang out with serial killers. So it's like you are the energy that you truly are, how you present yourself, how you not how you present yourself, how you actually really are internally will be presented in the OBE form. And so that's why there's no secrets, there's no hiding in this form. If somebody was trying to do you wrong and you had an out-of-body experience, it's far different than them trying to tell you while you're awake and lie to you. You're able to pick up on a lot of different things. A lot of the times these experiences are even more vivid than being awake, like right now being awake, and more kind of exciting sometimes. And so it just gets to that point of like, just an intense moment with somebody, and you can either react or not react, and then realize that that's how you're going to react in that dream space. And then knowing all of that, just know I'm going to set that dream space up before I go into it positive, with all the love and the light and the high vibes you can think of. So you don't even have to play with those lower realms. The other really fascinating thing is I've been in an experience where I've actually had somebody in a lucid dream trying to coach me on how to go to a higher realm with an out of body. And so I was in a dream, gained awareness, whatever this character was, a guide, whoever, I don't know, my subconscious, who knows. But it basically came to me, had me lay down on the floor. They were like rubbing my hand in a clockwise circle and just telling me to do this stuff. And I started to have another experience in the lucid dream where I was flying through this tunnel of light, flying super, super high at a rate like being shot out of a bullet, just really high to this other dimension. I mean, flying up. I could feel my body move, like differently moving, but it was so intense, I woke up. I've been in other experiences where I've been in an environment, I then have transitioned to where I thought would maybe a higher dimension, a higher realm, and I actually cannot see in that realm. It's just blatant, bright white light, essentially. And again, that's common sometimes. But again, a lot of this stuff is knowing in these experiences, no matter where you are, treat it like a Google search. So if you are in an experience to where you're in this higher dimension, or you're in this dimension that it's all white, demand that you can see better. So you just want to be, it doesn't really, you don't have to be, what I'm getting at is you don't have to meditate in a cave for 10 years, move to India to have this higher dimensional experience. You can completely be the average Joe Blow, never meditated in their life, and just commit yourself to these practices. And you can also have the same level of an experience as people that you've read about or seen in a movie. And it doesn't have to be this big jump of a lot of people think, love and light and only love and light and stuff like that. And that's very, that's true. You should have a lot of love and light, but just know that there are the negative that exists there. So you can prime that love and light before you go into the experience to not even mess with the negative stuff. And if you understand that no experience has you are creating it, you then can go higher. So a good author I'd recommend for people is actually William Buhlman. Are you familiar with that author?
No.
He's a teacher at the Monroe Institute. It's in the United States. It's one of the only institutes in the world that teaches classes like this as well. That's in person, and they actually have a whole institute, and it's a beautiful place. It's one of my dream vacations there. But basically, he is a very hardcore method of traveling dimensions, similar with the process that I was using of saying an affirmation. And so people all over different realms and different worlds will agree that there are these different dimensions that you can go to, and it does depend on your energy level. But the more important thing, I guess I would say, is, or the most important thing is to not think, oh, well, maybe I'm only going to be at this level because they haven't meditated for 10 years. Well, that's not the case. You can go up through these experiences just by doing acts of love and kindness throughout the day. You can try to change your energetic footprint of doing just kind things. Me personally, I do like to just give honest stuff that I do. If I'm trying to have a very real experience in my waking life, I would try to, the Hindus talk about it, creating positive karma for myself. And so a lot of people will go out there and they will intentionally, if they're trying to have an OBE, will do a few kind things for somebody to try to get that just love energy. Because it's hard to deny, when you do something nice for somebody, you feel good. When you give a homeless person a bag of food, it does feel nice when you can help somebody out. Yeah. And so you just kind of collect that energy throughout your waking day, and then just live consciously, and then understand at nighttime, you're going to kind of cash all that in and have a better experience, because you're not being deceitful. You're not rude. You're not snipping at your coworker. You've been through your waking life doing a couple acts of kindness. You're not responding very rudely. Now, if I was anybody objectively, I would say that person who's doing that is probably going to have a very enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
Versus the person who's short-tempered, pissed off, and they're out for themselves.
Yeah.
That seems like a very different experience that those two people are going to have.
Yeah. Do you have a technique that you can share on how to astral travel?
100%. So with astral traveling, the biggest important thing is to understand REM sleep cycles. So your REM cycles build on top of each other as they go on throughout the night. So your first REM cycle is going to be shorter than the second shorter than the third. Your fifth and your sixth REM cycles are the longest that you're in. Now, what that means is that's the longest time you're going to have these experiences in. So when you start to track, you want to track your sleep to start off with this technique. So what that means is you want to set your alarm for 4 to 5 hours after you go to bed. You don't go to bed with nothing at all. You just set your alarm, go to bed. When your alarm wakes you up, what you're going to be doing, now this is a very easy technique. When I say this technique here, it goes into a lot. There's on my website it's about 2-day courses, couple hours as well, to how to prolong, how to manifest, how to move from teleport, using doorways as portals, using all this stuff, how to manifest within the environment. But right now I'm going to show, because that takes a long time, all those steps. Right now it's going to be how to have your experience. And I've already told you how to have an enjoyable one with gratitude, how to set up your positive karma throughout the day by just being kind to people, even if they're rude to you. It's okay. Don't let that affect your dream state. And so that's going to be how you can set your intention for a positive experience. But this is how you can actually have the experience. And so you set your alarm for 4 to 5 hours after you go to bed. Now, it's anywhere. This is for people who, if you go to bed and you can go to sleep super easy, you're going to stay up for 5 to 15 minutes. You're going to stay up for 5 to 30 minutes if you can go to bed easy. If you cannot go to bed easy, if it takes a long time to go to bed, if you, like we said earlier, have to rely on substances to a degree, only stay up for about 5 to 15 minutes. So you set your alarm for 4 to 5 hours after you go to bed. What you're doing is you're waking yourself up within those REM sleep cycles. So after you wake up, you're going to be in your about 3rd to 4th REM cycle. You wake up, you don't get on your phone, you don't reset your alarm. What you do is 2 to 5 minutes of mindful breathing. Then you're going to repeat. You can write it down on a piece of paper, not on your phone, because that's going to be very stimulating. You might be influencing it on an app or something. So you want to write down a certain affirmation that you're going to be going. So the affirmation is, we can do, I am out of the body, or I am astral traveling, I am aware. A lot of people just use very simple affirmations to keep their mind awake. That's the main thing you're trying to do, is just keep your mind awake while your body puts itself to sleep. So what you're doing is you're going to go to bed with that intention, and you go to bed, and this is the best thing. As you're going to bed, you just relax from your toes. You can be on your back. I'd recommend it. But you can be in any position. You're going to bed on your toes, or starting with your toes, and you just relax your physical body all the way up to your skull or to the crown of your head. That's including, are your jaw, are your teeth clenched together? Are your eyes kind of, your face kind of scrunched? Are you flexing your stomach? So just get all the way from your toes, and you'll be surprised these muscle groups that are actually tense you don't even know about. So start from the tippy toes all the way up to the crown of the head. Just relax each muscle group. It takes about 5 minutes, nothing long at all. Then you're going to be repeating that affirmation. So as you're going to bed, you repeat the, I am out of the body, I am aware, and you're doing that constantly. And the way that technique works is, on every in-breath, you count to 1. On the exhale, you say your affirmation. So you've already relaxed your physical, so you've relaxed that physical body of yours. And now you're in bed, and you're saying an in-breath, you go 1, and internally you say 1. And when you exhale through the nose or through the mouth, doesn't matter. You exhale and you repeat that affirmation, whatever it is for you. I am aware. And you do it to 100. So you take in an in-breath, you go 2, exhale, affirmation, in-breath 3. You're just keeping track of the numbers, 3, 4, 5, doesn't really matter. If you get to 60 and you're like, was I at 61 or 51? Start over at 0. 1. You're doing this until you literally fall asleep. When you woke yourself up in those REM cycles, you're going to cause yourself to have a lot of false awakenings. And so every time when you get up from a false awakening, if you did not have success from that technique that I just talked about, do it again. Start over at the tips of your toes. Work your way up. Take an in-breath, count to 1, exhale, say your personal affirmation. Do that until you fall asleep. If another memory comes in of the past or future, or something you did earlier that day, beautiful, get back to counting. If it gets interrupted, back to counting. You want to try to get that as your last possible thought. And then if you wake up 3 times and you keep having no experience, until you're literally done for the day, you're going to keep waking yourself up, laying back in bed, and repeating that affirmation, I am out of the body, I am aware. And if you do that for 1 to 30 days, the experiences should be plentiful, but 1 to 7, you should absolutely see something going on in a dream state. For most people that take the classes, 1 to 7 is the sweet spot. Not everybody is 1 to 3 days success rate, but 1 to 7, I have found from the workshops here that is mainly when most people find at least some version of success. And then 1 to 30 is about what everybody will find success in mostly. But that's basically it. With that technique, is that something that you think you could do? You'd be setting your alarm 4 to 5 hours after you go to bed, wake up for about 5-15 minutes, do a meditation, get your affirmation ready, then just go back to bed, relax the muscles, repeat your affirmation. And that's the whole, it sounds simple, but that is a technique that just across the whole realm here is very easy for people.
Okay, beautiful. Get any listeners to check in if they've tried it.
Yeah. Have you ever tried any kind of that type of breathing or anything on that end?
The breathing, yes, but I've never woken myself up 5 hours after I've gone to sleep. My goal is to sleep all night. I've never tried to have an out of body experience. My dad used to talk about it when we were kids. He used to read books about it and stuff, but I've never tried to or set
If
the
you
intention.
followed that technique there, if you tried to do that technique off just being awake right now, we hung up the call and you tried to do that, it would take you so long to get to that theta state. But if you wake up within 4 to 5 hours of your sleep cycle, and then you apply these techniques every single time you wake up naturally. So don't set another alarm. You are your own alarm here. And you're just doing that over and over. You're already in a theta brainwave state when you woke up from that 4 to 5 hours. You're already in this window. The door's open for you. You just need to know this technique that we just went over to go through the door. But you'd be surprised. You would be surprised from people saying, especially if you're somebody who does this stuff on you teach meditation, you're into the whole yoga aspect is extremely beneficial here. People take the classes that have never meditated, don't know how to do any type of mindful breathing, and within a few days they're having full experiences. And so that's my main goal with this with these conversations, is to show how to have the experience and how to have a good one, not just the experience, but it needs to, do all the lucid living, do the high vibes before you go in there. But there are other things that people can learn, other techniques that everybody learns differently. So this technique, somebody might learn better from another technique. So that's why I offer a lot of different classes. But overall, that technique is probably my go-to. If someone just asked me how to have easy success, that's it right there.
Beautiful. What's been your biggest lesson along the way?
There's a moment in lucid dreaming where when you gain awareness, someone could be yelling at you right in a lucid dream, and then you go, oh, this is a lucid dream. I don't have to listen to this anymore. I can do whatever I want. I can go off. I can do this and that. And you do that because you realize you only have a very short time in a lucid dream. Even if it's an hour or two, to you, it feels sometimes short. And even if it is long, for some people, it's not long enough. And so you're sitting there and you really want the experience. And so that every second, if I just entertained this dream character yelling at me and I knew I was in a lucid dream, I'd be thinking every second I waste here, I'm wasting this chance at a lucid dream. I need to do what I want to do. What was my plan of action? I said I'm going to come here and ask about a technique. I need to ask about that technique instead of listening to this. And so that type of, I don't know there wouldn't be a word for it really in the literature, but there's that moment that you gain awareness versus when you were just a dream character in your dream. That would be how I applied it in my waking life. And so in your waking life, those moments, you start to live through 2 or 3 of those a night for a long time. Then in your waking life, when you're not doing things you want to be doing, or when you're experiencing something that you can get out of, but you're just entertaining it, you start to take control of your life instantly, and you start to go, oh, okay, I want to be doing this in my life. I only have a short amount of time here. It might be, years instead of just moments in the lucid dream. But ultimately, all the time I spend entertaining this BS that I don't care about, I'm getting closer and closer to not having my desired experience here in this world, in this life. And so that big transition of having that moment in the lucid dream of, oh, I can do whatever I want now. I've really applied it to my waking life of looking where I'm at in my life and going, do I like these habits I'm doing? Do I need to keep doing them? Or are they stopping me from getting my goal? And are the people I'm interacting with kind of stopping the goal? And if not, are they helping and stuff like that? And so just that type of moment, when in waking life, you're not in an experience you like, or not like, because you can push through kind of negative experiences. But when you're living your life and you go, yeah, I don't need to be going out every single night because that's stopping me from moving, and I want to be moving to this state. And you start to really just take control of your life and start to be, what do you make a plan of action when you go into a lucid dream. You start to then make your plan of action for your waking life, and you start to really take control. And that's a big one for me.
Beautiful. How do you experience the mysteries?
Oh, that is an awesome question, because with the mysteries, I would say similar. I have tried to approach a lot of these experiences, and I would classify all of them as mystical almost, as with kindness and love going into them, that very hippie light and love. The world might not be like that, but you can create your own space to be like that before you go into meditating. And again, you might then have something interrupt that stuff. And these practices really help you kind of stay calm in the storm, if that makes sense. As someone's yelling or something, you can stay calm within that. You can stay calm a lot more naturally in unpleasant environments. But when it comes to the mysterious and the magical, when you approach it with kindness and with love into these experiences, you do get a different type of experience than if you just approached it just off the cuff or just drug induced, or if you were angry that day. So that's a big portion. But for the biggest thing, curiosity. And I mean, the curiosity thing is going to be one of the biggest things, and then discernment as well. So those are the two words: curiosity. Always stay curious in these states. Set them up with positivity and loving kindness. But once you're in the state, be curious, be interacting with the environment, be kind of that lucid living with objects, kind of be curious, really stretch that imagination of what you think is real, what you think is possible. And having that curious mindset with the mystical and with the magical and everything, that allows you to kind of investigate it more open-mindedly versus just kind of, oh, I already know the answers to this. So curiosity allows you to kind of go down that path. But once you're down the path or in the experience, the big thing when you experience this magical stuff is discernment. And so you really want to be able to know who you are, know your power. Okay, maybe entertain this energy that's coming your way, but if at any moment you can give it away from you, you can leave at any moment, you can get it away at any moment. So just be, have a level of, is this how it is to me or not? An example is I was in a out-of-body experience. I was in bed meditating, rolled out. I stand up, no slippage in sleep. I was just right out of my body. And standing in the dark corner was this woman crying. And I was like, well, I'm going to go help her out because I like to help people. So I'm like, I'm going to go see if I can help her out. And as I start getting closer, almost like out of a movie, it starts to turn to kind of a maniacal laugh, kind of like I'm tricking you, but it was still crying. And I could feel that this energy was trying to get me closer to it to do something not positive. And I just turned my back and then did my own adventure. I was like, oh, I don't have to entertain this anymore. I'm just going to go around this way. But if that curiosity kind of led me to kind of go over there, but you want to have discernment in these magical experiences, because if you're just thinking every single thing is light and love and every single thing in there is beautiful, most of the times it is, but just have that type of, oh, let me check you, or if some energy is like, follow me over here, you could do that, but just kind of check if what you're doing. And it's harder to talk about discernment. And if you're not in the experience, talk about like an energy or something calling you over here. Some people might think that's like, what is he even talking about? But when it comes to discernment, this is for once you're in the actual experience and something's trying to get you to react, you can go along with the flow, but just be, kind of question what's going on, and just don't always just take face value. If something tells, oh, trust me, I'm good, follow me. If you're getting a negative vibe, one of the stories I like to tell is one of the people was saying, this energy presented itself as their mom to her. And she was like, oh, trust me, follow me in this room. And she was like, I could tell it wasn't her mom. She could say, she's like, the feeling, she was like a dark black, this dark field around her. And obviously this thing was a trickery thing, whatever was going on, it was trying to trick her. But she was like, no, even though you're telling me this and you're presenting as a mom, I don't get this feeling that you're who you are. Or, so discernment's a big thing with this magical stuff. Yeah. But you don't really have to be too level of discernment when once you set your environment up to have a positive experience. You can, if you feel that this thing's positive, it probably is, but definitely just kind of check yourself.
Beautiful, beautiful. Where can everybody experience your magic as we close here? Where can people find you?
Beautiful. So my website, I offer what we're doing here. I kind of spark noted, jumped around with different techniques and just different theories and everything. But I do offer one-on-one in-person and also virtual classes as well, like we're doing here. And the website is lucidcenter.org. And so that's going to have any events I'm doing as well as virtual calls. Again, everybody does learn differently. So the technique I shared here has other parts that go with it, as well as other techniques. The Patreon, my Patreon is a big thing for me because, as you can tell, these topics take a long time to talk about. A lot of people want to know a quick, short answer. That's not really doable with this subject. You can get a short answer, but it's not going to be, you won't have success. It'll more entertain your thought. It'll kind of help. Oh, that made it clear. I can see that. But when it comes to actually applying something real to have an experience, you can't just shortcut this stuff. And so on my Patreon is I offer all my classes that you can buy on the website, but they're just audio form, so you can watch at your own time. You don't have to book a session with me. And that's patreon.com/lucid_center. And that's the same as my Instagram. It's just @lucid_center. And on my Instagram, I have all my links and everything for the website and the Patreon, but websites for in-person and virtual, and the Patreon just for people on their own time, but they have the same information. And those are my three go-tos. And they also have all my emails and everything on those sites as well.
Beautiful. And it'll be in the show notes where everybody can reach out to you from those spaces. Well, thank you so much for this powerful conversation.
Yes, I very much enjoyed it. I like talking to people who enjoy these subjects. And from hearing some of the other podcast videos you had, it seemed that you guys were very open to just all types of conversations. So thank you guys for having me on.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me for an episode of the Phoenix Rising podcast. Please like, share, download, subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. And I will see you next week for another episode on the Phoenix Rising podcast. Sending so much love.